Hello, my dear friend. Thank you for joining me and allowing me to spend this quiet time with you. I know the world can feel overwhelming, fast, and sometimes uncertain, especially when you're standing on the edge of something new and untested. I remember being your age and looking out at the future as if it were a vast, rolling sea. So many directions to go, so many things that could go wrong or just maybe right. You see, life has taught me that the greatest opportunities are rarely the ones that arrive quietly at your door. More often, they are hiding behind a trembling moment, a leap of faith, a risk that asks for all your courage. I didn't always understand this. I used to think the safe path was the wisest one. Keep your head down, do what's expected, don't make waves. But my dear, it was only when I dared to step outside that circle of comfort that life truly began to unfold in rich, beautiful, and sometimes unexpected ways. Let me tell you a little about those moments, those leaps into the unknown, and the gifts they brought. The first risk I ever took was simply daring to speak up when my voice shook. I was young and I worried what others would think of my dreams. There was a job I wanted, a place at a table I felt I didn't deserve, and the trembling inside me was loud. But I told myself, what if you try? What if you trust yourself enough to reach? And I did, and while it didn't go the way I had imagined, it set something in motion inside me. Even a no taught me that rejection wasn't the end, only a gentle nudge towards something better suited for me. Over the years, I learned that every risk, even the small ones, were like seeds planted. Sometimes they grew slowly, in directions I never would have guessed. Sometimes they brought heartache, but more often, they brought the kind of growth that only comes from trying, from daring, from stepping into the light, even when it was scary. There was a time I left behind everything familiar to move to a new city. My heart was full of fear. What if I didn't fit in? What if I failed? What if I missed the comfort of home? But my dear, that move brought friendships I never would have found, lessons I never would have learned, and a kind of self-reliance that has carried me through every uncertain day since. You see, we grow by stretching, by trusting that even if we stumble, we can find our footing again. And sometimes we find a new version of ourselves waiting on the other side of risk, one braver, more resilient, more open to possibility. Taking a risk isn't about never feeling fear. It's about carrying that fear in your pocket and choosing to step forward anyway, knowing that courage doesn't mean the absence of trembling, but the willingness to move through it. Let me share another story. When I was older, settled in my ways, I met someone who invited me to try something utterly new. It was out of my comfort zone, learning to paint, if you can imagine that. I always told myself I wasn't an artist, but with encouragement, I picked up the brush, let myself play, and in that simple act of risking failure, I found a whole new joy. That lesson stayed with me. If you let yourself be a beginner, if you risk looking a little silly, you may just find a hidden wellspring of delight you never knew was yours. Over and over, I saw that life responds to boldness. When I dared to reach out to someone new, to say, I need help, or I don't know, but I'd like to learn, doors opened, sometimes gently, sometimes all at once. Sometimes the risk was a leap of the heart, loving someone deeply even when there were no guarantees. Sometimes it was leaving behind a job or a habit that no longer fit, trusting that something better was possible, even if I couldn't see it yet. Each time I listened to that quiet voice urging me to try, even if I was scared, life rewarded me with growth, meaning, and connection that safety alone could never offer. My dear, I know that risk can sound intimidating. Maybe you worry about failing or about what others will think. Maybe you wonder if you're too young, too inexperienced, or not quite ready. But what I want you to remember is that you are more resilient than you know, and that every person you admire has felt fear and doubt before they took their first step. The difference is not that they had no fear, but that they walked forward anyway, trusting that every misstep would teach them something valuable. Even when a risk didn't bring what I'd hoped, it always brought me closer to the life I truly wanted, one filled with purpose, discovery, and a sense of aliveness that comes only from being brave. Think about the risks you might want to take, big or small. Maybe it's speaking up in class, applying for a job you think is out of reach, reaching out to someone you admire, trying something creative just for you, or leaving behind something that no longer serves your growth. It could be the simple risk of being honest about your feelings, or the bigger one of changing your path altogether. Each risk, no matter how small, is a vote for the person you wish to become, a person who trusts themselves enough to try. Over time, you'll find that the habit of risk-taking builds your confidence and deepens your understanding of what really matters to you. You'll start to recognize the difference between fear that keeps you safe and fear that keeps you stuck. The former is worth listening to, but the latter is an invitation, a sign that there's something meaningful waiting if you're willing to be bold. And my dear, it's okay to move slowly, to gather your courage in small doses. Not every risk has to be dramatic or life-changing. Sometimes it's as gentle as asking a question, as steady as showing up day after day for something you care about. The more you try, the easier it gets to trust your own wings. Along the way, remember to celebrate every step, no matter how small. Every time you act in spite of fear, you are building your courage muscle, and you'll be able to look back one day and marvel at how far you've come. And if you stumble, if something doesn't go as planned, please be gentle with yourself. Failure is not a sign you should give up. It's a teacher, a guide, and often the first chapter of your next great story. Some of the best opportunities in my life came disguised as disappointment. The job I didn't get led me to a path I would never have chosen otherwise. The relationship that ended made space for a deeper love years later. Even my mistakes became rich soil for growth, wisdom, and self-compassion. When I look back, I see that the real regret is never in trying and failing, but only in holding back out of fear. Please don't let fear rob you of the life that's possible for you. Instead, let it remind you of how much you care. Let it sharpen your senses, and then let your heart lead the way. As you walk this journey, surround yourself with people who encourage your courage, friends who remind you of your strengths, mentors who see your potential, loved ones who celebrate your attempts, not just your outcomes. And try to be that encourager for others too. We all need someone to say, "I believe in you. Go for it. You've got what it takes." Give yourself permission to cheer for yourself, to celebrate your own bravery, to notice and honor every moment you choose growth over comfort. The world is shaped by people who take risks, not just the ones who make headlines, but the quiet ones too, who change their lives, their families, their communities by daring to step forward again and again. You are part of that story. The opportunities ahead of you may look different than you imagined. Some may arrive quietly, disguised as problems or uncertainties. Some may require you to let go of something that feels safe. But I promise you, each risk you take for your own growth, your own joy, or your own truth brings you closer to a life that feels deeply, truly yours. So let yourself try. Let yourself be a beginner. Let yourself fall and get back up as many times as you need. Life rewards the ones who show up, who care enough to try, who risk their comfort for something greater. I hope you'll trust yourself and know that I'm cheering for you every step of the way. And so, my dear, let's continue to wander through these memories and lessons together, like two friends walking a quiet path, each story and reflection a stepping stone beneath our feet. As I look back on my own journey, I see how every meaningful chapter began with a risk, even when I didn't recognize it as such at the time. Sometimes the biggest opportunities arrive dressed in uncertainty and require nothing more than your willingness to say yes before you feel ready. I recall a time in my middle years when I was offered a chance to lead a small team at work, something I'd never done before. My hand shook when I was asked. I wondered, why me? What if I let everyone down? But something inside nudged me to try. So I said yes, even though my voice was uncertain. That experience changed the entire course of my life, not because I did everything perfectly, but because I discovered new strengths, new friendships, and new ways of seeing myself. That risk opened doors I never would have dared to knock on if I had waited until I felt fully prepared. If there is a secret to courage, it is this. It's not about having no fear, but about having just enough hope and curiosity to keep moving forward in spite of it. Each time you take a risk, you become more yourself. You shed old doubts and step closer to the person you're meant to become. I want you to know it's never too late to take chances, to reinvent yourself, or to begin again, no matter how many years have passed or how many times you've stumbled. I have seen people in their 60s, 70s, and 80s make bold decisions, learning new things, traveling the places they've always dreamed about, building new friendships, starting new careers or passions, or simply allowing themselves to grow beyond what others expected. Life is long, my dear, and every season can bring new beginnings if you allow it. Sometimes the most transformative risks are not the ones that change our careers or bring us outward success, but the ones that help us heal and grow on the inside. I remember a moment when I had to forgive someone who had hurt me deeply, an old friend whose words cut me to the quick. For a long time, I protected myself by holding on to resentment. But as the years passed, that burden grew heavier than any risk I could imagine. The real courage I discovered was in opening my heart again, risking vulnerability, and choosing compassion instead of anger. That choice didn't erase the hurt, but it set me free, and it taught me that sometimes the greatest opportunities for growth lie in the risks we take with our hearts, in loving, in forgiving, and letting go of old pain so we can move forward lighter and stronger. Each act of courage, whether big or small, writes a new line in the story of who you are. You may be wondering how to know when a risk is worth taking. The truth is, there's rarely a perfect sign or a guarantee. Often, you simply feel a mixture of excitement and fear, a flutter in your chest that says, "This matters." Sometimes the world gives you a nudge, a friend's encouragement, a door opening unexpectedly, a quiet longing that won't let go. Listen for those nudges. Reflect on what truly matters to you. Is this risk in line with your values, your hopes, your vision for who you wish to become? If so, even if you don't feel ready, I encourage you to trust yourself enough to take a step. It can be a small one. The important thing is to move, to say yes to the possibility of something more. Along the way, Don't be afraid to ask for advice, to learn from others who have traveled similar paths. Wisdom isn't about knowing everything yourself. It's about being open to learning from the stories and experiences of others. Let me tell you, too, that risk is not just about action. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is to pause, to reflect, to wait for clarity instead of rushing into something that doesn't feel right. Patience itself is a form of courage, especially in a world that urges us to hurry. Trust your inner voice. It knows when to leap and when to hold back. There will be moments in your life when you're tempted to choose comfort over growth, familiarity over adventure. It's natural to want to stay safe, but remember that growth often lives on the other side of discomfort. Every time you step into the unknown, you stretch your capacity for resilience and discover that you are so much stronger than you once believed. When I think of all the young people I've met, so many bright, hopeful souls longing for meaning, I wish I could tell each one that the world needs their risks, their daring, their willingness to try. The great changes in history, the inventions, the art, the movements for justice and peace all began with someone willing to risk failure, to stand alone for a while, to believe in something before others could see it. Your risks matter, not just for you, but for everyone whose life you may touch. Don't wait for certainty or for someone else to give you permission. Let your life be a testament to the power of hope and action. And don't forget to celebrate each risk you take, whether it works out the way you hoped or not. Every act of courage, every step forward is a victory in itself. Make time to honor your growth, to savor the feeling of having tried. Be kind to yourself when things don't go as planned. Failure is simply a sign that you were brave enough to try, and the lessons it brings are worth more than any easy success. Hold on to the stories of your own resilience and let them remind you, especially in difficult times, that you have faced uncertainty before and found your way through. Your courage is a light, not just for yourself, but for those around you. And remember, my dear, that you are allowed to redefine yourself as many times as you need. Each risk you take is an opportunity to write a new chapter. Life is not a straight line. It is a series of cycles, a collection of stories and seasons. You are never finished growing. Let yourself be surprised by what you can do. Let yourself change direction. Let yourself say, I don't know yet, but I'm willing to find out. Let yourself rest when you need to, and then try again when you're ready. If ever you find yourself doubting, remember that you are not alone. Every person who ever lived has faced uncertainty, has wondered if they had what it takes. The secret is that you do. You have already survived every hard day you've ever known. You have a wisdom inside you that is always growing, always ready to help you take the next step. Trust that. Trust yourself. Trust the gentle courage that lives in your heart. And know that whatever happens, whether you soar or stumble, you will have earned the gift of having truly lived. And so, as we continue together along this gentle path of stories and soft wisdom, I want you to know that the courage to take risks is not a thing you summon once and for all, but a practice, a way of living and seeing the world that you return to day after day. Some days, courage is loud, a bold declaration or a leap into the unknown. Other days, it is quieter, like a whispered, I'll try again tomorrow, or the silent work of healing and growing even when no one else sees. I think often of the times in my life when courage looked like showing up, even when I felt uncertain or tired, trusting that the simple act of continuing would eventually open a door. There were times I failed, times I stumbled, times I questioned if I should have stayed safe, but always, looking back, it is those very risks that brought the greatest meaning, the deepest friendships, and the kind of self-understanding that cannot be bought or given, only earned by living with an open heart. I hope you'll remember that not every risk has to change the world to be worthwhile. Sometimes the risk is to choose kindness in the face of anger, or to listen when you'd rather speak, or to stand up for someone who needs a friend. These small, everyday risks may not make headlines, but they build the kind of character and courage that carry you through life's storms and seasons. Let me tell you about a friend I once knew, a gentle soul who, for many years, avoided taking risks because she was afraid of what might go wrong. She stayed in a job that didn't inspire her, held back from sharing her art, and told herself that maybe one day when she felt braver, she would finally try. But life, in its mysterious way, kept offering her small opportunities to stretch, to say yes to something uncertain. One day, she agreed to help a neighbor organize a local art show. It was a small thing, but for her, it felt enormous, a step into the unknown. That one act led to another, and then another. She began sharing her own paintings, making new friends, and finding a sense of belonging and pride she never knew was possible. When we talked years later, she told me, the scariest moment was always just before I said yes. After that, everything felt like a gift. I share this because maybe you too have been waiting for the perfect moment, for more confidence, for a sign that it's time. But sometimes the only way to find courage is to begin, even with your hands trembling and your heart uncertain. If you're standing at the edge of something new, a job, a relationship, a dream you've kept quiet, know that it's normal to feel afraid. Fear is not your enemy. It is simply a sign that you care, that you're awake to possibility. Instead of letting fear hold you back, invite it to walk beside you. Ask yourself, what would I do if I trusted myself, just for today? What small risk could I take that would bring me closer to the life I imagine? Even the tiniest act of courage is a seed. Plant enough of them, and you will one day look back on a garden of moments that made you who you are. Along the way, you'll learn that not every risk pays off in the way you hope. Sometimes you'll fall, sometimes you'll be disappointed, and sometimes things will turn out in ways you couldn't have imagined. Let yourself grieve those losses, but also let yourself learn from them. The world is full of people who have failed and started over, who have taken risks and changed direction, who have lost something precious and found something new. Your worth does not depend on getting it right every time. It is found in your willingness to try, to care, to be present for your own unfolding life. As you gather experiences, both joyful and painful, you will gather wisdom, the kind that cannot be rushed or faked, the kind that settles deep in your bones and teaches you to trust the journey. One of the greatest gifts of risk is connection. When you share your dreams or your struggles, you invite others into your world. When you are brave enough to ask for help, to admit you don't know, or to reach out for support, You build bridges that make life richer and fuller. Don't be afraid to let people see your unfinished, imperfect self. That is how true friendship, true love, and true community are born. We all long to be known and accepted as we are. And when you risk sharing your true self, you make it safer for others to do the same. As you move forward, keep your eyes and heart open for the unexpected. Sometimes the opportunity that changes your life will not look the way you imagined. It might be a chance encounter, an unplanned detour, a door that opens when another one closes. Let yourself be surprised. Let yourself try things that don't make sense to anyone but you. Give yourself permission to change your mind, to start over, to say yes to what excites you and no to what drains you. Your life is yours to shape, and every risk you take in service of your own growth and happiness is a step toward a life that feels real and true. And as always, be gentle with yourself. There will be days when you feel brave and days when you need to rest and gather your strength. Both are okay. Courage is not a constant. It ebbs and flows. Trust that you can return to it again and again whenever you are ready. Trust that your heart knows when it is time to leap and when it is time to simply breathe. And so we continue, side by side in this gentle conversation, letting the wisdom of risk and the art of living fully ripple outward. My dear, sometimes the greatest courage is not found in daring adventures or grand gestures, but in the simple act of beginning again, of opening your heart to the unknown each morning, of trusting that even the smallest steps forward count. In my later years, I've come to realize that every stage of life invites new risks, not always in the big headline-making ways, but often in the quiet choices, to forgive, to hope, to be honest about what you want, or to set down burdens that were never yours to carry. When I look back, I see how the most unexpected blessings arrived after moments of deep uncertainty. A new friend met on a day I nearly stayed home. A project started on a whim that blossomed into a source of joy. The simple bravery of saying yes to a second chance or a new beginning. Each of these risks was, in its own way, a declaration of trust, not in a perfect outcome, but in the goodness of trying, in the wisdom of listening to that small voice inside that says, maybe, just maybe. If there is a lesson I wish I'd learned sooner, it is that you do not have to wait for fear to vanish before you act. Courage often feels like moving with fear, not without it, holding its hand gently, thanking it for its concern, and stepping forward anyway. Even as you grow older, the risks do not disappear. They simply change shape. You might risk letting go of a long-held identity, learning something new when you feel out of place, or reaching out to heal an old wound. Each risk is an invitation to grow, to experience life more fully, to love, and to be loved in return. And with every risk you take, you become not only braver, but more compassionate, because you understand more deeply the journeys of others. Do not underestimate the ripple effect of your risks either. Sometimes a single act of courage, a letter sent, a truth spoken, a boundary set, a kindness offered, can change the trajectory of your life or someone else's. There were times when I doubted myself, when the voice of caution seemed louder than hope, and yet somehow I found the strength to reach out, to show up, to say yes. Looking back, I see how each of those moments became a thread in the tapestry of my life, connecting me to people, places, and opportunities that shaped who I became. You may not always see the impact of your choices right away, but trust that they matter, that you matter, and that the world is richer because of your willingness to try. Let's not forget the risks of tenderness, the choice to care in a world that can sometimes feel harsh or indifferent. I have found over and over that the most lasting joys come from loving fully, even when there are no guarantees, even when hearts have been broken before. Let yourself be vulnerable. Let yourself love and be loved, not in spite of the risks, but because of them. The people who fill your days with laughter, who hold your hand in darkness, who see you and cherish you, these relationships are the treasures that make life meaningful. Sometimes the greatest risk is simply to stay open, to keep your heart soft, to trust that even after disappointment, there is more goodness waiting ahead. You will discover as you walk your path that your capacity for courage grows with every risk you take. At first, it may feel like a leap across a chasm, but with each step, the distance shrinks and your sense of what's possible expands. Be patient with yourself. Some days, bravery looks like big, bold choices. Other days, it is the gentle decision to keep going, to keep believing, to keep nurturing your dreams even when progress is slow. Celebrate both. Celebrate the days when you feel unstoppable and the days when simply getting out of bed is a quiet act of strength. My dear, let yourself be guided by curiosity as much as by certainty. Ask questions. Seek out new experiences. Let your wonder lead you to places and people you never expected to find. Every risk is also an adventure, an opportunity to discover something about the world and about yourself. The more you explore, the more you'll see that life is not about having all the answers, but about learning, adapting, and growing with each new challenge. Trust in your ability to figure things out as you go. You are more resourceful than you know, and every mistake is simply a lesson, a chance to become wiser and more compassionate. As you move through seasons of doubt or disappointment, remember that risk is also the path to resilience. Each time you recover from a setback, you become more confident in your ability to weather whatever storms may come. Let failure be your teacher, not your enemy. If you fall, take a breath, reflect on what you've learned, and get up again. Life is generous with second chances for those who are willing to receive them. And if you ever feel discouraged, look back at all the times you were afraid and acted anyway. All the small victories, the quiet moments of hope, the bridges you built with your own hands and heart. Let those memories remind you that you have always been and will always be braver than you believe. Surround yourself with those who understand the value of risk. Friends, mentors, loved ones who will celebrate your attempts, offer support when you need it, and help you see possibilities where you might only see obstacles. And be that person for others too. The encouragement you offer can give someone else the courage to leap. Remember too, that your dreams do not have to look like anyone else's. What feels risky to you may be ordinary to someone else, and vice versa. That is the beauty of it. Your journey is uniquely yours, and only you can know what courage looks like for you in this season, on this day. In the quiet moments, Late at night or in the hush of early morning, listen for the dreams that whisper to your heart. Let them be your guide, your inspiration, your reason to keep risking, keep growing, keep reaching. Life is vast, and every day is a new page on which to write your story. Fill it with attempts, with laughter, with questions and hope, with the satisfaction of having tried. No matter how many times you change direction, no matter how uncertain the road may be, trust that you are building a life that is rich and meaningful because you dared to risk, to love, and to begin again. And as we keep walking gently through these reflections, my dear, let me remind you that risk is not just for the young or the daring or the ones who seem to have it all figured out. Risk is the companion of every meaningful life, the way we say yes to change, to hope, to possibility. Whether you are just beginning your journey or have traveled far already, the invitation is the same. Stay open, stay curious, and keep trusting that something wonderful can happen when you step outside your comfort zone. I remember in my later years, after I had lived through seasons of loss and unexpected blessings, I discovered that risk often means letting ourselves be changed by what we meet. It's about letting new ideas, new people, and new hopes into our lives, even if they challenge what we thought we knew. When you welcome the unknown, you give life the space to surprise you, to stretch you, to fill you with a sense of wonder you thought was only for children. Sometimes the greatest adventure is simply allowing yourself to see things differently, to release an old grudge, to embrace forgiveness, to listen with a heart that is willing to be moved. You may find, as I did, that what once felt like a frightening leap becomes, in time, the most natural thing in the world. You grow, you heal, and discover a strength and gentleness within you that you never could have imagined. You see, my dear, the world is not waiting for perfection. It is waiting for your presence, your willingness, your unique combination of hopes and questions. Every day there is a chance to risk something. To be kind to someone who seems distant, to ask for help when you're struggling, to speak up for what matters to you, to offer your laughter and your tears to the circle of those you love. Each of these is a small risk, and each one builds the habit of courage. In my life, some of the risks I am proudest of are not the big, bold choices, but the quiet, steady acts. Apologizing after a misunderstanding, calling a friend I had lost touch with, daring to hope again after disappointment. These are the moments that knit a life together, that fill it with meaning and depth. And when I look back, it is not the times I played it safe that fill my heart with gratitude, but the times I reached out, tried, and learned. If you are afraid, know that you are not alone. Everyone you admire has stood where you are, wondering if they were enough, if they could endure, if they would be met with kindness or rejection. The difference is not in their lack of fear, but in their decision to move forward anyway. Let yourself be afraid and let yourself try. Fear is not a stop sign, it is a signpost, reminding you that you are alive and that something important is at stake. With each risk you take, you send a message to yourself. I am worth the effort. My dreams are worth the try, and my life is worth living with my whole heart. And sometimes, my dear, the risk is not in action, but in acceptance. Accepting the things we cannot change, letting go of control, and trusting that we will be cared for even when the outcome is uncertain. There is wisdom in surrender, in choosing peace over struggle, in allowing yourself to be guided by what is unfolding rather than what you had planned. I have learned over many years that the gentle art of letting go is itself a risk and a gift, a way to make room for grace, for serendipity, for the quiet goodness that finds us when we stop striving. So, as you move forward, keep asking yourself, where can I take a risk today? What small act of courage is mine to give? How can I honor my heart, my hopes, my deepest values in the choices I make? Let your answers be soft and simple. Maybe today the risk is to rest, to say no to what drains you, to say yes to what delights you. Maybe it is to start again, to reach out, to dream a little bigger than you did yesterday. Whatever it is, trust that you are capable, that you are loved, and that you are part of a great unfolding story that is more beautiful than you can imagine. And as we go on together, I want you to know how natural it is for the heart to hesitate at the edge of something new. Even after a lifetime of experience, every fresh risk still comes with that old flutter, a tremor of uncertainty mixed with hope. Don't ever mistake that feeling for a sign that you aren't ready. Rather, see it as proof that you care, that you are alive to the preciousness of what's at stake. My dear, sometimes the biggest risk is simply believing in your own potential when the world has yet to catch up. I remember the quiet courage it took, again and again, to listen to the small, persistent voice inside that whispered, "You are meant for more." Sometimes that meant starting over, or asking for forgiveness, or daring to love without guarantees. Sometimes it meant risking disappointment in pursuit of a dream that no one else could quite see. What I hope you carry from my stories is that every risk, whether it leads to soaring or stumbling, is a gift, because each one brings you closer to yourself and deepens your understanding of what matters most. There will be days when you feel tired or discouraged, when the world feels heavy, when your dreams seem far away. In those moments, remember that risk doesn't always look like leaping. Sometimes it is simply choosing to keep going, to keep believing, to take the next small step. Progress is rarely a straight line. There will be setbacks and seasons of waiting. But if you keep tending to your hopes, even quietly, you will be surprised at the strength that grows within you. It's not the size of the step that counts, but the consistency and heart with which you take it. Trust that every act of effort, every risk taken in good faith, is building something inside you that no disappointment can erase. One of the kindest risks I ever took was to forgive myself for mistakes I made long ago. For years, I held on to regret, thinking it was noble to be hard on myself. But I learned with time that true courage is found in mercy, in the risk of letting go, of choosing to see your own humanity and worth, even with your flaws. If you are carrying old hurts or regrets, I invite you to risk releasing them, if only for today. Trust that you deserve a fresh start, that you are not defined by what has gone wrong, but by your willingness to grow, to heal, and to keep moving forward. And don't forget the risk of joy. Sometimes, after hardship, it can feel vulnerable to let yourself hope or celebrate or open your heart to goodness again. But my dear, joy is not naive. It is a declaration that, in spite of it all, you believe in beauty, in possibility, in the hope that the future holds kindness you cannot yet see. Risk letting yourself laugh. Risk noticing what is sweet. Risk being fully present for the small wonders of every day. Joy is not a denial of difficulty, but a testament to your resilience and your willingness to be moved by life's blessings, however brief. In all things, let your risks be guided by love. Love for yourself, for your future, for the people whose lives touch yours in big and small ways. The world is full of uncertainty, but it is also full of grace and second chances. Let your days be marked by the gentle bravery of trying again and again, and trust that each effort makes you wiser, softer, and more fully alive. Thank you, my dear, for spending this time with me and letting me share these stories from my heart. If you found comfort or encouragement here, please like, comment, share, and subscribe so we can keep building a kinder, braver world together. You are stronger than you know, and the best is yet to come.